The last time that we talked here on this fine program, Drue Tranquill was not a Chief. He was not even remotely on their radar because the Kansas City Chiefs have 3 linebackers that they've invested the top 100 picks in the last 3 years. But lo and behold, the Chiefs elect to make a move, sign 2 defensive players that are really going to help the back 7 of their defense. But we'll start with Drue Tranquill. Rival turned someone that finally is sick of Patrick Mahomes beating him like a drum and wants to actually win something.
Like a drum.
So he joins the Kansas City Chiefs. Tertiary is also one of the crutch words of Craig Stout. He's extremely smart and talented. Grayson Jaspers has picked up on that as well. Anyways, initial thoughts on Drue Tranquill signing. We're going to start with Craig. Maddie, we've talked to you about this. You had some opinions on this before. Craig, I want to hear from you first on the Drue Tranquill signing.
You got your dime linebacker right there. I think it was very apparent that the very first thing that came out from a lot of the media that are connected closely to Brett Veach and the Kansas City Chiefs is green dot. Everybody wants to talk about the fact that he had the green dot last year, was the de facto Mike linebacker, coverage linebacker. Guys, this just screams, and not just because it's a white linebacker, it just screams like the Ben Neiman move, where you've got a guy that you trust to come in, run your dime, be the solo linebacker that can cover a little bit, call the defense, make adjustments, run it out of the hurry up when offenses are trying to kind of run the 2-minute drill. Drue Tranquill checks like every single box in that. He's what they asked of Ben Neiman on steroids. He really is. He's just a better athlete. He's more fluid, a former safety that has converted to linebacker that was, his last couple of years at Notre Dame. A guy that we were pretty high on coming out. He was a little bit light coming out. He's bulked up since. The athleticism's still there. The football IQ is still there. This is a bargain deal that it sounds like he chose the Chiefs over 5 other suitors that the money was better. He wants to be in Kansas City. He's not coming to Kansas City to be a backup linebacker. He's coming here to play a major role, whether that is just the dime or if it's kind of some will linebacker as well, remains to be seen. But he's going to get opportunities. He's choosing this not because he's ring chasing, because he feels like they're going to put him in the best spot to earn another contract after this 1-year deal.
Yeah, so I think you got to start with Tranquill. You got to kind of look at what snaps he's played for, I guess, the Chargers over his career, which is essentially 2,000 snaps. He played with the Chargers over 4 years. One of the years he was injured, but over 1,000 of them have been in coverage. So he's played far more coverage snaps than he has run defense snaps. Now, that's not abnormal for a 3-down linebacker, but that's the thing. I just said the key word. 3-down linebacker, which means that's a coverage linebacker. That's a guy that is staying on the field for all of the coverage reps. Most teams aren't going to take off, their best coverage linebacker just because it's a rundown frequently. So yeah, he's a guy that has been trusted in coverage with the Chargers under 2 different coaching staffs that are good defensive coaching staffs, right? Like, it's not like it's just a slap together defensive coaching room that he's been with the Chargers. 2 entirely different schemes have used Drue Tranquill as their de facto coverage linebacker in the middle of the field. It was more so a couple years ago before Brandon Staley got there, but he was a huge part of how they shut down the Chiefs 3-by-1 deep over stuff. He was part of their kind of blueprint to slow that down, having the weak side linebacker away from the 3-by-1, get vertical, keep eyes on that deep crosser, and then that way your safeties could stay deep over everything. He was part of the reason they were able to kind of show how to slow down that exact formation by the Chiefs. He's also played really well in coverage against specifically the Chiefs, but against everybody else. So from that perspective, the Chiefs just got a lot better or more proven. I think we all think Willie Gay has flashes of potential in coverage. He has the ability to get out there, cover a lot of ground, make deflections on the ball, tackle guys in space, but he doesn't always make a ton of plays. He doesn't shut down a ton of stuff. And there are situations where he maybe doesn't end up in the right spot. He gets sucked up against play action and is forced to recover and really flip his hips, robot out, and try to cover a lot of ground. I just think Tranquill increases the floor of that coverage and maybe even the ceiling just because he seems to get it a little bit better. So I think day one, practice starts, training camp starts. I would be shocked if you don't see him fighting for that number one dime linebacker spot. And if not, getting some looks in the nickel just because of the coverage ability alone.
100% lockstep with you. I think some thoughts initially, like even when we were talking, it's like, okay, why are the Chiefs doing this? Why is this move happening? This team spent 3 top 100 picks in the last 3 years, the linebacker position. I know Willie Gay's on a contract year and all that stuff. That would seem to indicate that you believe Willie Gay is going to have a big year as he's playing for his money and all this stuff. But the most logical place to take snaps away from this linebacker group is Willie Gay. So it's fascinating to me that this group, or that the Chiefs grabbed a guy like Drue Tranquill. But the funny thing is, like, this wasn't on our radar. A guy that has such great chops and coverage wasn't exactly on our radar either, because this team has always prioritized big physical guys that can play the run. And I'm not going to say that Drue Tranquill, is a slouch by any stretch of the word. He's listed at 234 pounds. I don't think he plays at 234. If I'm being honest, when I watch him play, I don't think there's any chance he's playing over 230 pounds. He plays the run fine, capably, but I don't necessarily consider him a guy that is going to stop the run like a Leo Chanel, like a Willie Gay downhill, like a Nick Bolton downhill. So I just found it very interesting. Dare I say refreshing that the Chiefs prioritize getting a guy that can play in coverage the way that Drue Tranquill can. And I think we've always just kind of been resigned to the fact that this team was going to throw someone they trust out there in the dime, a la Nick Bolton. Well, now we've got a bona fide player that can cover. And I just think that's so refreshing almost, I think, with the approach on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just that. It's making yourself better in the dime. I think the spot that everybody remembers the Chiefs being poorest, basically, in defense was 3rd and longs. They're at the end of the year, beating that over the head with a hammer, how often the Chiefs were allowing 3rd and long conversions. And part of that is because you didn't have somebody in the middle of the field that you trusted to be able to carry a guy vertically to the safety, that you trusted to be able to pivot, swivel, and carry a drag across the middle of the field. That's stuff that Drue Tranquill can do. And so you can operate with him in the middle of the field, not just as a space eater. I'm not trying to dunk on Nick Bolton here, but Nick Bolton's ability to track those sorts of routes is not his forte. So him playing in the dime was more about his ability to call the defense and make sure that everybody was on the same page versus what was happening after the snap. Because if it was after the snap, it would be a guy like Willie Gay Jr. with the athletic ability to carry and run with guys in the middle of the field. Now you get a little bit of both. You get kind of the best of both worlds there. Tranquill's not the athlete that Willie Gay Jr. is, but he is the kind of guy that you trust to call the defense, adjust, check out of blitzes. We saw too often where the Chiefs are in a big Steve Spagnuolo blitz. Somebody shifts out into a spot that they shouldn't be. And what happens? Nobody checks out of it. That was something that Ben Neiman did excellently. Check out of that, try and get guys in the right spots, and try and limit those sorts of things. Those 3rd and extra long conversions are what killed the Chiefs on defense at the end of the year. Didn't end up costing them, but that was the difference between this defense being really good and allowing a couple of extra points every single game just because they were allowing these longer drives than they needed to be. They did a good job of creating negative plays on early downs through that front. They got themselves into advantageous positions in 3rd downs and then couldn't get off the field. Drue Tranquill and the guy that we're about to talk about, and safety that they signed, Mike Edwards, are targeted efforts to get rid of those conversions. So I love it. I absolutely love it. If that's all he plays, I'm going to love it. But he certainly has the flexibility to step in there at the will. And you've got a guy that you trust at the Mike linebacker in case Nick Bolton can't go for the entire season. So it's like a win-win-win-win scenario having Drue Tranquill on this roster.
Well, and you mentioned not as good of an athlete as Willie Gay, buddy. Better athlete than Willie Gay, according to RAS.
From RAS, yes.
No, he ran Willie Gay's freakishness was how fast he ran, but like at some point in time, there's like for athletic metrics, there's like a point of diminishing returns, and like not that it was ever bad, just he stopped getting as much of a boost for being so darn fast and so thick at the same time. So I wanted to go back. Drue Tranquill is coming off his best year versus the run, right? Like he's not a bad run defender. He's not a great run defender. He's not a thumper. Like you're not going to have him go in there and want to be the point man and taking on a fullback or a pulling guard, but he's not bad. He had his most stops this past, season with the Chargers. Granted, it was because he played his most snaps, but he was coming in, he was playing his most reps, and he was playing it fine. He is the, quintessential will run and chase linebacker. You put him on the backside, you say you work away, around, and across all this traffic, and then you cover stuff. That's exactly what he can do. So like if I'm starting to pace out what this team's going to look like, Nick Bolton's clearly your Mike. I think Drue Tranquill is the guy that's going to play Will even at base. I know the Chiefs have done Willie Gay in that role, but also, they put Willie Gay as the strong side linebacker plenty in base. They don't really care who's on which side. He will happily walk up to the line of scrimmage. So I think you just keep doing that. I think you let Willie or Leo Chanel, whoever you want, because Leo Chanel's still there. They only have one more year of control over Willie Gay. Let Leo Chanel or Willie Gay kind of fight for the same role. But I'm not putting it completely out of the question that Drue Tranquill is the day one weak side linebacker, even in base coverage. I think his skill set is probably the best for that. As much as I like Willie Gay's ability to play the run and the athleticism, I just think Tranquill's better in coverage than Willie Gay is, and he can do the exact same job that Willie Gay does from the backside. You lose a little bit of physicality. You do lose some size. You do lose some power there, but I think you get just as good of a run and chase player at this point in time.
And I think when people hear maybe me say, safety, Ken alluded to this earlier, and Matt did as well. They think a guy that's going to get overwhelmed by a pulling guard, that man's going to stick his nose in there. He's going to try and stack and shed. It's just he may not have the mass of a Willie Gay Jr. This is going to result in probably the best three see the field. And that may mean that Leo Chanel is a guy that's an odd man out for whatever reason there. And that's going to stink for him, but his time will definitely come. But I do think that they're going to give the best three the opportunity to see the field. And because there's such a low investment in every single one of these guys, yes, Willie Gay Jr. is a second-round draft pick. If Leo Chanel beats him out and Drue Tranquill beats him out, it's not like it's that big of a deal. It's just a second rounder that you've gotten plenty of good snaps. He's still going to play plenty. We could even see a rotation of guys. We saw that last year with Willie Gay Jr. It just might end up being a little more balanced. And oh yeah, all of these guys, other than Nick, basically are really strong special teams players, something that Dave Tobe had to deal with a lot of rookies last year. Drue Tranquill was starting Mike linebacker and still playing teams for the Chargers last year. So expect him to make a contribution in that effort as well.
Dave can get over the special teams. They had a giant punt return in the Super Bowl. All right, so a few things. Yes, Leo Chanel is getting better, so I think that's definitely something to pay attention to. He saved his best game for last. He was outstanding during the Super Bowl. I know there was a couple moments there. He got Moss. That was an outstanding play in coverage. A lot of people have talked about Willie Gay as a potential trade chip for somebody in the Southwest. I don't think that is the case. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe Willie Gay Jr. will be on the roster here in 2023. There was one more thing I wanted to say about it, but I just I don't know. I tend to believe that there's an opportunity for Drue Tranquill to actually make some serious time here on this roster. I think Willie Gay's role is potentially being diminished a little bit, and it was a little bit last year too. People forget Darius Harris would jump onto the field for him at times. I don't know if either of you, I can't remember if either of you brought that up, but Darius Harris was rotating in for Willie Gay last year. I think you can put some pieces together and see why maybe they wanted to get a little bit more dynamic there.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.